Oh, I had the audio off too. Well, my mistake, guys. I've been here. Hello, it's me. Had a rough week, decided to go ahead and stream, and forgot that I had actually muted the mic while I was doing things because my little Vipo guy was moving and bouncing along fine. Since I've got him connected to Discord right now. So, welcome back. Welcome back me. Welcome back you. I have something I think is going to be pretty fun to work on today. I decided that I'm still working on my Tyranids. That's fine, that's all good, but I have begun working on this chonky lad right here. He is not a Phyrexian Tyranid. I forgot to change that in the to-do list as well. So let's change that to say Truescale Dreadnought. Truescale Dreadnought. For the Imperial Fists. He was a free file by the lovely Thunderhead Studios, and he's supposed to be a more properly scaled box knot that has some of the Redemptor Dreadnought shape language in it, which you can kind of clearly see with like the backpack and whatnot, but you can see the legs and the general body is meant to look like a regular box knot. The difference is they're a lot bigger. I don't know exactly how small a Games Workshop box knot is. I kind of want to buy one just to own one, but this is the size that he is going to be. And I think compared to an old school Space Marine, he is quite large. There's one for scale, and you can see that he's considerably better than the old one used to be. But something I thought I'd do, because he kind of pre-built it into the Mini, was I'd go ahead and magnetize the lad. So if I want to, I can change him into whichever form of Dreadnought that I want. I can switch out his guns and turn him... Uh-oh, is this... Yep, there goes his waist. Is this painted on? Did I accidentally paint this in place? No, okay, perfect. But as you can see, every weapon on him is magnetized. And had I had a little bit of sense, I would have realized that the magnets I owned fit perfectly into the anti-air rocket launchers he's got, so that I could have put on one of the other guns and made him a Brutalis Dreadnought. Or even, for example, magnetize this so that it would fit in here and made him look even more like an old school Dreadnought. But that's okay. I'm going to print out another one because I'm absolutely in love with how this guy turned out. So I'm probably going to sell my two Redemptor Dreadnoughts and just move forward with this awesome little monster. Yeah, I just think he's super cool. What I'm doing right now is kind of blocking in the colors so that I can make sure that, you know, all of the black is properly painted, all of the yellows are properly painted. And I did so this morning using a giant brush and some craft paint, which, you know, was not the cleanest look. There's still obviously areas that I didn't exactly paint in the lines for. But what that means is now I get to go ahead and use a smaller brush and kind of fill in the spots that I wasn't able to hit with the larger brush. So I think that is what I'm going to do today, right now. I don't know how long this is going to take me. I don't anticipate it being an incredibly time-consuming process, because after that I'm going to go ahead and go back and clean it up a bit, and then work on some of the other bits on him, and hopefully he's going to end up looking really cool. So first I'm going to take off his two, whoops, not his entire body. I'm going to take off his two gun arms, get those out of the way, and then I'm going to mix some black up. And actually, I don't even need that. He's so compact. I'm going to put you over here out of the way, and I can go ahead and get in there and just start blocking in some of the stuff I missed using the giant number 4 brush I was using. Hey, how's it going? I am painting a Truescale box knot that Thunderhead Studios made. And right now, this morning when I had some time, I went ahead and blocked in a lot of the black, and you can see it was not an especially elegant blocking, and there's smudge marks everywhere, but it was enough to get most of him covered. So now I'm going back in with a smaller brush to really hit these spots and really get a good black layer in on the parts that will eventually be dry brushed with a metallic. And hopefully that will all look nice and convincing. But yeah, not a lot left for me to do here. A lot of little bitty bobs to get him all ready. And then I can move on to some more detail work. Now the nipple guns are going to be real easy because there's not a whole lot of detail required for them, and most of it is going to get a metallic dry brush, which will make it all look fantastic. So that's the hope. That's what I'm going to do. But right now, I just need to angle this just right so that you guys can see it, and so that I can see it. But yeah, that's what I tend to do for bigger models, especially if I know that most of them is going to be monocolored, is I'll either hit them with the airbrush, or if I'm trying to get a little bit more detail work, I'll do one base coat with the airbrush, and then I'll go in with a second color and a really large number 4 and block it in, and then clean up the blocking with a smaller throwaway brush. You just sprayed up your Dreadnought this evening, ready for detailing tomorrow. That's pretty freaking awesome. What kind of Dreadnought did you get? Do you have one of the Primaris Redemptor Dreadnoughts with the big old beer belly? Because those are neat models. I didn't like them when I first saw them because I thought they were a little bottom heavy in like a weird way. They just reminded me of Hank Hill from King of the Hill with their thick torsos and tiny little chicken legs. But they were like pear-shaped in the stomach. And then I got one, and once I owned one, I realized, no, I need this and I love this. But then I found out that this guy was making these Truescale ones, and, you know, friendship over with Redemptor. New best friend is, I think he calls them Recursor Dreadnoughts, and I think they already got DMCA'd by Games Workshop, which is really unfortunate because he had them out for free, and they look absolutely fantastic. There's the Ballistus from Leviathan. That's a great model. I have a Ballistus I got from the Leviathan set, and it looks fantastic. So I hope yours turns out as cool as mine, and even cooler than mine. Though honestly, I'm strongly considering selling mine because I really, really like how this guy looks. And it makes me not want to own a Ballistus Dreadnought anymore. Though, last time I sold the starter set minis from Indomitus, I really regretted it. And so, maybe I won't do that, who knows. But anyway, what chapter did you paint him up as? Because I bet, regardless, he looks freaking badass in his base coat. But I'm always curious, what chapters do people play? I wonder if you're going to be the first one. I only started Warhammer about 6 months ago, so my painting isn't as good as I hoped yet. Well, it's only going to get better. You know what? That's what's going to be the great part. First of all, welcome to the hobby, and I hope your wallet will forgive you. But one of my favorite things about the painting side of the hobby is that even if your stuff isn't super fantastic now, it will keep getting better the more you work at it. It's one of those things where you may not personally see it. One moment, I have to sneeze. You may not personally see it, but your painting will indeed get better and better as you keep chugging away at it. And to me, that's super freaking cool. So yeah, like right now, I'm just blocking this guy in, but I do eventually plan on doing some more interesting shadows and shading and whatnot on him to give him some technical depth. I'm just copying the box art for the color schemes. Oh, so you're doing the really cool Ultramarines. The best thing about the Ultramarines is that partially because they're the, you know, base of Warhammer, and just because they are who they are, you can't go wrong with the Ultramarines. They've got super cool lore. They've got a Primarch, so you've got a big old boss character that you can buy and make your centerpiece, and he's gonna look amazing. Yeah, you can't go wrong with the Ultramarines. I'm really impressed you have an airbrush already and have used that on him. It took me quite a few months before I was comfortable enough to get an airbrush. But yeah, there's, I think the best part about it too is that once you decide you want to branch off, you can do whatever color schemes you like and name your chapter whatever you like, and that really is the fun of this whole hobby, is that you're not really beholden to any hard and fast rules. So if you want to paint them, you know, bright red with orange highlights and you know, crazy hot pink trim, you can do that because no one's allowed to stop you. Hey Aria, how's it going? How you doing? How's the wrist doing? Oh, here's the coolest thing. Check this out. Check this out. What? Magnets. How do they work? So, starting out with ultramarines is definitely not a bad idea. That was how I started when I first played, or when I first got models. And my first model, I'm happy I repainted him because he looked like garbage. Well, he didn't look that bad. That's being really mean to myself. And it was really neat. I took a picture of him. It's going okay. Surgery went well this morning. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I was pretty upset to hear what happened, and I'm really sorry. You know, what a bad way to end the weekend. But I'm glad that you're doing better. Hopefully it'll heal up real fast, and then you'll be back to painting in no time. Now, I did a thing where I kind of hecked up, and I started just blobbing on the black here, and I realized, wait a minute, no, I want this part to be yellow, and I wanted this part to be black. This is really out of focus. Let's get his legs out of the way. So, I think I'm gonna just end up having to do the opposite. I think the cowling right here is gonna be yellow, and everything else is gonna be black, and that's just how it's gonna have to look. So, I'm gonna go ahead and just continue with the scheme that I started. I was way too tired to be doing what I was doing this morning, so it just ended up being a disaster. But that's okay. It's his fault. Yeah, I bet he just tried to show you a cool Shotokan grapple and sent you flying. Shame on you. Not really though. Everything's cool. I mean, that's how most of my friends end up injured. I'm like, hey, check out this cool throw. He's just emulating Teddy Roosevelt. I don't know if you knew this about our former president from 100 years ago, but Theodore Roosevelt was a really big martial arts dude. And it was because he was sickly and asthmatic as a child. And so he really pushed physical fitness. And he became obsessed with Japanese jiu-jitsu. And there's this great story of him trying to entertain I think he was a Swedish diplomat, and the way he did so was by demonstrating a judo throw on the Swedish diplomat and throwing him halfway across the meeting hall. And that will always stick out in my mind as one of the funniest political stunts I've ever heard of. But yeah, I'm glad to hear you're doing okay, because the last I heard about you was that you were in the hospital. So, or that you had gone to the hospital. So glad to hear everything's good to go. Speaking of, though, I painted some more of the Tyrannid stuff since I returned to Virginia. So if you give me a second, once I finish... Why is it so out of focus? What is it focusing on? Is it you? Are you actually looking at you? Come on, you can do it, phone. There we go. This is the problem with using the autofocus on my phone, is it doesn't always know exactly what to hit. Okay, come on. Come on, phone. You can find it. There we go. Yeah, kind of hard to do with only one hand. If you did, I'd be really impressed. But yeah, one moment. Let's find him real quick. Went ahead and painted up this, I can never remember. He's not a Tyrannid Prime, is he? But either way, he's from the Leviathan box. Painted him up. Really like how the colors turned out. I think I'm going to give him another dry brush over the red bits to make his red stand out a little more. But, I think he looks fan-freaking-tastic. And I did the Screamer Killer. again, pretty darn happy with how this guy turned out. They ended up having that really strong Phyrexian look about them. So now I've just got a bunch of mooks and little guys to paint. And the Neurogaunt? I don't remember what they're called. This guy. Haven't painted him up yet. But this is my favorite model. I love this model. He's a great looking dude. And also, for one-page rolls, I told you, I mentioned that I was game for printing something for you, whatever you wanted, specifically Lilith from Diablo, so we need to get in contact about that. But to give you an idea of how the printing looks, other than the guy I'm painting right now, One Page Rules has their own approximate army to represent the Tyranids. If you don't have Tyranids, called the Alien Hives, and they release their own models for that, right? And so this was their representation of the Haruspecs, which I think they just call an Alien Devourer. So I've got this guy. And visually, of course, he doesn't quite read as a Tyranid, but I still think he's really neat. He's also really heavy because he didn't hollow out properly. But this is going to be my Haruspecs until I can afford and buy a Haruspecs. So I'm pretty jazzed with how it came out. And now I've got to go ahead and give this guy a pretty hefty base coat and prime, and then hopefully he'll turn out heckin' neato. Yep. Yeah, right now I am painting up... Did I miss any spots on his leggies? I'm painting a Truescale Dreadnought. So this guy is bigger than the box knots that Games Workshop sells. There's the spot I saw that I missed. But he's not quite as big as a Redemptor Dreadnought. So I actually don't like the Redemptor frame a whole lot. I think it is really neat for what it is, but I really prefer the old school box knots. And so I was really happy to find this guy. And now I'm giving him a bunch of chonky base coats before I move into doing more of the detail work, like the shading and the highlighting. And the, in his case, a lot of metallic dry brushing, because good lord does he have a lot of metal spots on him. So that is my current project before I move back to doing Tyranids. I definitely have a problem with my painting where I get really bad distraction. Acha! Form Voltron. And I can only stick to one paint job for, you know, a couple of minis. Shoot me a DM on Discord. I'm in Atsu's Dojo. I remember seeing you there. I'll definitely do that. Yeah, I can't wait to print that Lilith, because it's going to look fantastic. Unless they did an absolutely miserable job supporting it, it's going to come out pretty darn flawless, and it's going to be very, very easy to mail to you. But yeah, we'll figure that stuff out. In the meantime, I'm going to keep painting this guy. Did I get all of the bitty bobs on his rocket launcher? I did not get all the bitty bobs on his rocket launcher. Let's go ahead and hit some of the other spots, because there's just little bits that he needs to have painted a little more rich black. And then someone just shared pics of Evier Metal of a Lilith that they painted, and OMG. I know, right? Was it the same model that I was showing you at Victory Pints? At the place. Forgot, I don't exactly want to dox anyone. But yeah, was it the same model, or was it another model that they found on the yellow site? The yellow site, the purple site, that's the one. Different, let me try to find it. Okay, yeah, if you post it, then I will definitely pull it up and we can look at it and ooh and ah. The las cannon, I think, no, I did not hit all the spots on him. Okay. But yeah, just working to get all of this in so I can do appropriate lens flares and whatnot. So I'm not exactly sure what the anatomy of a las cannon is in 40K. I don't know which spots are supposed to light up, which spots are not supposed to light up, but I'll be honest with you. This section right here looks like power coils to me. So I think that's how they're going to get painted. I'm going to go back over them with a with a an off-white, and then build up to like a bluey white to make it look like they're charging up and getting ready to fire. And I'm definitely going to do some muzzle burn on the barrels to give them a little bit more pep. And this is definitely going to need a lot of dry brushing to give it that metallic flair. But yeah, I'm absolutely stunned at how detailed this thing came out as a 3D print. I'm still getting used to the level of detail that the 8K printer can do, because it really is almost to the point where it looks like a piece of plastic. Okie dokie. Let's see. Yar. And pick you up and yar. There we go. So this is basically what he's going to look like when he's done. And then I've got another print that's going to show up, and I'm going to have more weapons and whatnot to attach to him. I have a not quite magnetized assault cannon and power claw for his arms that I'm eventually going to do. Are these things have got to be done? Yes! Yes! Cool. So check this out. I've got this power claw, which I've magnetized, so he's got the power fist, goes right on there, and he's got an underslung dual heavy bolter, so it can magnetize as well, goes right there. And I'll be able to switch this out, and my plan is I want him to also be a Brutalis Dreadnought, so I've got this claw that I'll be able to glue on, and I'm printing out another one to go with his other arm, which I have right here, which is also halfway magnetized. And I also have this assault cannon, which is from the old Dreadnought look, but I kind of like how stumpy it looks. I don't know, I'll figure it out. But in the meantime, I'm going to continue painting these guys. You really need to learn how to magnetize your models. You need the right tools. If you don't have the right tools, it's much more difficult to do. What most people use is a pin vise, which is one way to do it, but I don't like the pin vise because it puts a lot of stress on my joints. So this is a pin vise, right? It's got a twisty knob, and you can put the drill in here, and that way you can just kind of twist it in, but it just feels like I'm always off center, and I don't really like it. I didn't spend the money, I got it for Christmas. I got a WoW stick. And it's also called WoW, a pen drill WoW stick. They're like $70 on Amazon, and what they do is they have a built-in drill. And the best part about them is that they're high torque, low speed. So it's really, really easy to drill a hole with these things. And it's great for pinning, it's great for magnetizing. Yeah, so what I do to make my aim better is I have a hobby knife, and I'll just kind of use the edge of the hobby knife and make a little depression and dig it out a bit, and that'll become my guide hole. But again, what makes the this guy so great is that because it already has the tip, I can just kind of drill it in a little bit, and if there's even the slightest depression, then it'll hold, and that will allow me to go ahead and drill the hole. What was kind of neat about this model, though, this Dreadnought model, is that it came with the holes kind of pre-built into them. So, like, you can see this other double underslung bolter combo, it's got a hole already in there. So you just need to buy the appropriate magnets. And I actually got lucky. I bought a set of magnets that were the wrong size for what I was doing, and they ended up being the perfect size for these. I don't remember what size these magnets are. Now, let me get him out of the way because everything's blurry. I don't remember what size this magnet is, but it like fits perfectly in the hole, both in terms of diameter and depth. So I now have purpose for these magnets. But yeah, it's really cool. It works really well. I'm really in love with that setup and system. I think by and large he's done, and I can go ahead and start dry brushing the crap out of him. Man, I love this model. Sorry, I'm just ogling this box. Okay. No, I think I know. I think I know what I'm gonna do. I did this with my other Ballistus Dreadnought. I gave him some red trim because he was with the third company, because that is the company of Imperial Fists that I like the most. So he is going to get red trim. Just so you know, Captain Star-Lord, sorry. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read it very well, but Captain Star-Lord, just so you're aware about how the Space Marines are split up. Most of the major chapters, there's 8 major chapters and then a bunch of other successor chapters and the like. But they are split up into companies, right? And they're supposed to have roughly 1,000 Marines total, and then if they end up having any more, they end up creating a successor chapter or something. And that's because they don't want another Horus Heresy. They don't want another Primarch or leader to gather up too much power and consolidate and then become a problem. So, one moment please. I have been tagged. Oh, very cool. Let's see, every metal, my latest brick. Oh, you found it! Let's go ahead. Now, we're not just going to blindly trust those Facebook links, but let's go ahead and go on here. Oh, that's a good Lilith. I'm going to take the one picture, and we're going to show that off. Let me find it. Window capture. There we go. And I think I don't necessarily want you guys to see my browsing window, so will this work? Bam. There we go. That's a good look at Lilith. They did a great job there. I am incredibly impressed with the blends around the head to the horn transition. And the volumetric lighting they got on the wings, on the hips, that's pretty heckin' good. Yeah, that's a good model. That's a darn good model. Ooh, the glow they got from the lava. It's from Nom Studio. I'll have to remember that, because like I said, I'd be glad to print you one. So, I'll definitely get on that. But okay, gonna go ahead and get some red. In this case, I use Vallejo Heavy Red, or Rojo Denso, because I just like how rich it is. And I'm gonna pop off this guy's cannon, or his missile launcher arm. And already, a flaw. It just kind of stops here, and that's not what's supposed to happen. It's supposed to be red lined all the way down. There's supposed to be like a border to tell me what to paint and what not to paint. So, I think I'm just going to have to freeform it. Which, I will let you know right now, is not one of my better talents. I think I'm just going to go ahead and go all the way back. And hopefully this will turn out okay. Okay, it's okay, it's visible, it's fine, it's all good. The good news is that Rojo Denso, while it does have some translucent qualities, it's also a very rich, deep red. So this is going to show up beautifully after it dries. A little more of that Rojo Denso. Get it right here. And let's see if I can... There we go. That's a decent enough boundary, I think. And trust me, right now we're in what I love to call the ugly phase of painting. So this is going to be a bit goofy looking. And once it all dries out and gets a chance to really kind of sit and marinate, this is going to look fantastic. Okay, a little bit more there, a little bit more there. Now, what I probably shouldn't have done, if I had had any degree of patience, is I probably shouldn't have glued on the plate, which was not initially attached. It was printed as a separate piece. But I am an impatient little bugger who needs to see the good brain juice by putting it all together all at once. So I just went ahead and slammed it all together because I wanted to see the full model. And that has made painting the model in general much more difficult. So don't be like Ben Repaints. Take your time. Decide how you take an approach for how you want to paint the model. Why is everything... There it goes. But say, why is everything so out of focus? And then, once you've come up with your approach, then start assembling. Otherwise, you're going to end up having to kind of fight yourself. Again, everything... Why is everything so out of focus? I think it might just be because I have this zoomed in a bit, and instead of focusing on the center, I have the camera angle, so it's moved down a little. And so that's causing some focus issues. I'm going to be right back with this guy. I'm going to hit him. Actually, no. You know what? I think I'm going to hit his warheads first. I was going to hit him with a hairdryer, which helps with the drying process. I usually just wing it, but occasionally I do start with a plan. Yeah, me too. It works 90% of the time, but there are some times where I really feel like I should have painted in sub-assemblies, and that's usually on the bigger models. But like this one in particular, there's so many bits that overlap, and with how they designed the parts, it would have made it a whole lot easier if I had... Yeah, Bellacore was definitely one that you needed to strategize on, and it really shows in the painting too, because you did a beautiful job with that model. Speaking of, I finally convinced myself that I need to buy myself some Chaos Space Marines. Being down at the game store and seeing the owner's Chaos Space Marine army. Hey, Hut Armories, how's it going? Sorry, my glasses are off, and the text is very tiny, because I need the glasses off so I can do the little bitty painting of the warheads. We were just talking about our approach to painting models and how I kind of goofed by putting the yellow plate on top of the missile launcher before I painted anything, because it's definitely making life harder. Generally okay, watching him building. How goes the Dread? It's going pretty good, pretty well. Right now, I'm just trying to get each of these little warheads on here. And then I'm going to hit it all with a hairdryer to get it to dry quicker so I don't accidentally smudge some layers. And also, I'm not sure if you're aware, but this is... You're dying not being able to paint right now. I can definitely understand that. If I couldn't paint, I'd lose my mind. This week has been kind of a tough one at work, so I haven't had the energy really to paint or stream, but I hope things get better. But with that being said, this is not part of a Ballistus Dreadnought, and I think that's super cool. It's a 3D print for one, but Hut Armories, it is part of a Truescale magnetized box knot. And I just think that's the coolest thing in the world. This entire thing is 3D printed. It's 3D magnetized. Oh, he's missing his nipple guns. I'll put those on later. Okay, I'm gonna take a second to hit his missile pod with a hairdryer to dry some of this paint, and then it'll get a second layer. One moment. Goodness gracious. Ugh. Come on, paint, dry quickly. Oh, that actually worked really well. Okay. Unfortunately, I've beaten the ever-loving bejesus out of my hairdryer, so only the low setting works. And the low setting isn't exactly fantastic for drying paint quickly. So thankfully, taking that time to paint all those warheads actually did fairly nicely allow this paint to dry before I put it under the hairdryer. But yeah, that's generally my way to take a shortcut to get the paint dried, because I'm very impatient, and I will typically paint over wet layers, which is terrible. Just terrible. But this guy's turning out pretty good. And then, after I'm done putting on the yellow border coat for this thing, I can start working on the details. So I think even before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and dry brush the whole thing with a metallic layer, which is going to really help with the look. Because I know metallic paints in general are fairly popular, but I don't really like how they look unless they're applied perfectly. I feel like they give it kind of a toy look. And while yes, these are all, you know, plastic model kits, anything I can do to prevent it from looking too much like an action figure is my aesthetic. I do like the grimdark look, but I do like the idea of making it look more like Oh, thank you for the follow, Sophia Jacko7. I appreciate it. I do really want this thing to look like a little miniature diorama rather than a game piece, if I can help it. So that's all painted and good, I think. Now, I think I still got some black paint mixed up. So I'm gonna... Oh, it's still too wet. I'm gonna mix some of the black paint with some of the red paint to make this kind of... Do I stream regularly? Not as regularly as I like, but I do typically try and stream around these hours. For me, I if you say I can help you with some stuff, I'm not sure how much help I really need right now, especially with, I'm not sure what my streaming schedule is going to be like. I usually stream around, I'm in the United States, making logo banners, sub badges, overlay, emotes, or animation. Nope, I appreciate the offer, but I'm pretty well covered. My wife is an artist who's been helping me out, and once I finally get more of a general direction for the overlay and what I want to do, then she's going to go ahead and do a lot of that for me. So I appreciate the offer. Do I have a mod around? I do not. I don't stream enough to really need a mod. At least not anymore. I used to stream very regularly, but then business and the work got in the way, and now I don't stream regularly enough. Yeah, I probably will. Soon, if not now. I'll see what I can do about getting that all figured out. Okay, on that lens. Probably right there. Actually, this is getting a little wet. I don't know why. So we're going to dry that off. Get a little bit more of that mixture. Try and get it on that warhead. Try and get it on that warhead. There we go. Get that little bit of red right there. But yeah, no, just in general. Hot Armories, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. At this point, I think... Have I hit 100? Oh, not at 100 yet. Just to deal with these fake artists trying to sell their work. Yeah, when they start becoming more of an issue, then I probably will. Because I have seen a little bit of an uptick of that since I joined the Twitter. But, it hasn't been really enough to bother me yet. So... I'll probably get someone to help me. And I have noticed that if they try and message me via Discord or something, I can just ignore them. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, oh my goodness, I'm at 99 followers. When I get to 100, I'm probably going to have to do something interesting. I don't know what yet, but I'm probably going to have to try and figure something fun out. Oh boy. There's 100, I guess. Either that or that was 99 and it was just late. But, yeah, my thought was initially that, I was gonna buy a mini of my Discord's choice and then paint that up. But I'm not exactly sure. I really do like how that red looks on those chords. That's a good look. I'm gonna keep with that look. Okay. Let's see, what else do I need to do with this guy? I think the next thing I need to do is, metal. I need to do the metal. So I'm gonna take some, let me see, grease metalizado, some gunmetal, and I'm going to make myself a dry brush. Let's go ahead and shake it up a lot. I use a vortex mixer. I don't know if you guys have that or want one, but it has made mixing paints so much easier. I got this off of Amazon. I think it was like $30. And you just kind of, with an agitator marble inside, you know, these things, I just go ahead and put it on there for about 15 seconds, and it does a really good job of pureeing the paint. Yeah, it's been a remarkable tool, and it's been very, very helpful. And I also, because I'm a Looney Tune who spends too much money on this stuff, send you a link later? Okay, yeah, I'll find it and see if Amazon still sells it, and I'll throw it at you. I got this thing. It's Army Painter's Masterclass Dry Brushes, which are essentially a ripoff of, well, not a ripoff, but they look very similar to Artis Opus's brushes, but they were like $80 less. And they do the job decently well. Like, I've had no real complaints with them. But yeah, what I typically do if I have something that's supposed to be metallic is I will hit it with, I'll paint it black, and then I'll hit it with a metallic dry brush. And that does a pretty good job of selling the metal without making the entire thing shiny and metal. And then I'd have to go back and null oil the crap out of it. But, not necessarily my favorite way of showing it off. So yep, just drown the thing in gunmetal. I might go back in a minute and add a little bit of some other metals. I usually also put in like a bronze. And I know, right? Wouldn't know too much about spending too much money. Yeah, I'm at that point right now with my budget that I think I have like $1,000 worth of Games Workshop stuff on the to buy list, and I have not $1,000 worth of monies to buy the stuff on my Games Workshop to buy list. You like how that turns out? You think it's good? Yeah, it looks pretty good, right? It still keeps the deep shadow, but you got the shine, and it just looks good. It just works. So it just kind of hits the high spots and sells that this thing is a piece of metal without, like I said, in my opinion, I think that painting things entirely metal just makes them look too much like a toy because it's just metal glitter. You're currently sawing holes in a Tyrannofex kit. Good luck with that. That's a lot of work that I don't know if I can do that. Though honestly, I'd love to try. You have those dry brush. You have the Army Painter Masterclass too. I bought them because I bought a cheap set of makeup brushes off of Amazon, and without being too mean, they were dog shit at dry brushing. So I stopped using them, except for like the biggest of the big. But yeah, see, it gets that kind of nice brushed metal texture, which I really dig. And it doesn't make everything too bright, which I think is the problem of painting it purely metal. Yeah, they're pretty good. And they're also really easy to clean. You just kind of, you know, mix them up in a water tray, a water cup, and let them dry. And honestly, if there's any extra, schmeckis on it, then you just kind of grind it into the paper towel you were using, and usually it rolls right off. Okay, so yeah, there we go. On the toesies, on the side, on the back, toesies, sides and back, on the cables. I honestly think this was one of the best purchases I made in terms of like just cheap materials. And there we go. And the best part about it to me is that I'm not really done with him yet. Like, he looks pretty good, and I really like how this is turning out, but I don't like just having the one note color, so I will typically go back with something like hammered copper, which will give it a little bit more color depth, and also just makes it look more beat up, which I find more visually interesting. So I'm going to pour some on a paper towel that is at this point 90% paint and 10% paper towel. Mix that in, and I'm not going to do as heavy a dry brush on him this time, because I don't really want this to overwhelm and take over the silver. I just want it to, or the gunmetal, I just want it to kind of flavor it to show that there's been some exposure here, right? And this is all personal preference. I didn't really learn this from anyone. I just noticed that my metal was looking very one note, and so by adding this little bit of a different color, you can see it makes the gun just have a little more interest to it. And I'm gonna go back and more finely tune the painting of some of these spots, because it looks weirdly like new old if I just leave it at this. So it'll allow me to have some more fun with the general overall look of the model. Okay, you next. And like I said, just adds a little bit of color depth that wasn't there a minute ago. And if you learn anything from seeing all these mini painters online, it's that volume and contrast are your two biggest allies in mini painting. And now, I don't know how long that was, maybe 15 minutes? He ain't done yet, I've still got a lot of fine details, but now, he almost looks like I could just throw him on the table. Heckin' good model. Don't need the upper body. I need to do a little bit of more rusting down here. Oh yeah, that's right. No wonder that looked wrong. I didn't do any of this yet. Kind of jab at it. Get some more of that hammered copper on there. But yeah, I'm glad that this was somewhat informative and enlightening. There we go. Now, he should look a little more uniform. And the next thing I probably ought to do with him... Actually, you know what? I'm going to paint his knee pads black. But the next thing I probably ought to do with him is do some of this kind of metallic scoring all over even the yellow frame. Because otherwise, he just kind of looks like a big cheese wagon with some rust on the metal bits. And his actual plating looks very overly preserved compared to the rest of them. Oh, thank you. Appreciate the subscription. Was not expecting that. I definitely want to start streaming more, because I feel like even though I'm not the best painter in the world, I do have a lot of advice I can give up and coming painters, and do like live demonstrations and whatnot. Like I did help some lovely individual a few months ago figure out speed paints and how useful they are and what they're good for doing. But I just need to be on more. I've been able to stream. Maybe there's always more to learn. That's what it feels like, and I think that's why I haven't like gotten bored with this hobby yet. Is that I don't feel like I'm anywhere near at the level I want to be at, but at the same time, a very small dent in your GW wish list. I appreciate it. It does feel like that. One model that I want to... Oh! So, I have this idea, and I really want to go through with this idea. I want to do an orc army, and I think Aria knows about this. I think I told you. You've been in the hobbies for roughly 20 years, and you're still learning. And that's what makes it so great. Whether it's the lore, whether it's collecting the models, whether it's painting the models, there's no bottom. And my favorite thing about it is that even though there's no bottom, there isn't also like a crazy compulsion, an intense compulsion, pardon my language, to just collect everything and do everything. I feel like of all the hobbies I've been in, Warhammer does the best job of like letting you engage at the level you want to engage in. And I think that that's really cool. It's easily one of my favorite things about the hobby. With Magic the Gathering, I always felt like unless I was buying everything, I wasn't going to be in the right place. So the fact that Warhammer does such a good job of not making me feel that way, and the only reason I want new shiny thing is because it looks like a fantastic statue to paint. I'll never be a Golden Demon contestant, but I also have no desire to be like that. And that's also the great thing. You don't have to, right? I've seen what your models look like. Your models look fantastic. Your models were so cool that even though I've seen Eldar before, seeing your Eldar made me want to buy Eldar. And that's what I love about this. It's this beautiful self-expression that really shows through when you love what you're doing. Yeah, I'm most likely going to buy a Combat Patrol of Eldar, which is another thing I need to put on the list because I forgot. But yeah, I just love that you can engage at this hobby at the level that you feel comfortable. Now, what was I gonna do? Oh yeah, my brain died. Another army I want to do, and I've already started it, was orcs. I finished my Orc Combat Patrol last week. It's the reason I started this hobby. You chose the right faction, my friend. You chose the exact right faction. The orcs are the best in every way. And the best thing about the orcs is that they have the biggest range of models of any of the armies, because whether the other armies realize it or not, it's also an orc model. And that's the best thing about it. But I want to do an orc warband, slightly unrelated. Posted my saga on Facebook, and a friend commented, Ordo Pedestrius claims another victory over the foul Xenos. Yeah, I suppose that would be right. Oh gosh, speaking of, I'm really glad you weren't carrying any of your models when that happened. Oof. It's also the easiest to paint because all mistakes look orcish. That's how I felt about Death Guard when I was painting Death Guard. They're supposed to look sloppy and hideous, so it's really easy to paint them because there are no mistakes. Matter of fact, this guy, for example, this Lord of Contagion, it doesn't really matter how clean my paint job was on him because he just is dirty. So it makes sense for him to be dirty. I did not realize he was stepping on an Urgling. That's hilarious. I also got to learn how to paint a cloak with him with purple, and I think it turned out okay. But yeah, just same point. It's the exact same thing. It's like mistakes don't look like mistakes. They just look like part of the paint job. But orc warband. So my idea for an orc warband was that this orc warband in particular, like raided a human hive, right? They raided a human hive colony, or a hive city, and in the process they found the basement. And in the basement of said human hive city was a great repository of old holotapes from the 2nd millennium, right? And what they did was they watched all of them, and they realized that that era of humans was especially fighty and especially tough. And so they were like, oh, we've got to be like them. And so they decided to model their attire, their equipment, their battlefield roles, their strategies off of those old holovids. So my orcs have called themselves now, they are now called the Fanboys, and all of their vehicles, whoa, there he went. All of their vehicles and all of their equipment, as best I can, is going to be based off of like late 90s, early 2000s anime and movies. And I've already started the idea and gotten some ideas from some of my other friends. But I bought a war boss on a trike, on an attack trike. Okay, this ain't working. I'm just gonna have to grab it off. And I designed Orkira, which is one of my favorite models I've ever painted, and it convinced me I need to own more orcs because I had an inhuman amount of fun painting that lad. So after I finish dry brushing the yellow armor panels on this guy, I'll go ahead and pull him out of storage so that you guys can see him, because he is a great looking model, if I do say so myself. And I do say so myself. As someone who doesn't like to toot his own horn, I think I did a fantastic A+ job on that model. Okay. Get some more of the metallics. Some more of the metallics. Yeah, that'll do. Let's get the nipple guns on him. Nipple. Nipple. Get this back on him. That on him. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so I present to you Orkira. Gosh, it looks even better than the last time I looked at it. So I've even got him doing the Akira slide. You can see he's kind of off kilter there. I did as good a job as I could painting up the characters. I did a lot of the same dry brushing stuff that I've talked about. I love this model. And unfortunately, because of how washed out this light is, you're not getting to see a lot of the detail. One moment. There we go. Now the light's not compensating. Did a lot of heavy shading on the orc's skin. I've got the grot dressed all blue like Tetsuo. I've got both of the orcs colored to be like Kaneda's, you know, jacket. I even have little decals that I painted on the front. I made this part out of plasticard so that it had something of the cowling, which made me laugh because it's now covering the headlights, which is purely an orc thing if you ask me. But yeah, I love this model, and I have not had a chance to play it yet because I'm still building my army. But I really like how this one turned out. I also bought a set of orc commandos just because I liked how they look, and they saw that the humans were wearing funny patterns on their clothes that made them harder to shoot. And they decided that they need to do that too, and they raided a bunch of clothing stores in the Hive world that they were in, and they didn't, or the Hive City, and they didn't realize that camouflage has a very distinct pattern. So instead of finding camouflage clothing, they just found a bunch of ugly sweaters. So my orc commandos are dressed in very bright neon colored, gaudy sweaters that have horrible patterns on them. One moment. I've got them all in a metal toolbox. Let's find one where it'll really show off. So yeah, like the orc fighter, the one with the choppas, he's just got like snowflakes and whatnot patterned all over his shirt. And that was, yeah, they believe it works, so it does. And that's the beauty of, you know, the orcs. And again, the light is unfortunately kind of washing him out, but that's the idea. And I just love how these guys look. I think the only one I painted straight was the knob with the power claw, because I just love how that model looks. Let's see. Yeah, I painted him straight, and I just tried to make him as detailed and as well shaded, well painted as possible. And again, love the model. Think it's a great looking model. Really happy with how it turned out. I got one though. I don't know how well it shows up, but he's straight up in a Christmas sweater. He's got snowflakes and Christmas trees all over his sweater, and I kind of love it. One other model, just to show off before I get back to painting, that I think you guys need to see. I bought it from Puppets War, and if you don't know who Puppets War is, they're another maker of 40K-esque models. So they're not 40K, but they're very clearly 40K. And my favorite one of them was this specific orc boy that they did. Yeah, I need a John McClane orc, right? So I love this guy. He is hands down my favorite orc of all time because this one is committed to the bit. I don't know if you can see it because it's all it all blends together a little bit, but look at his gun and tell me that is not the best gun ever made. Tell me that that gun isn't the coolest thing in the world. He literally has like a 50 caliber shell that he's strapped to a butcher knife, and he is going to hit the primer with a hammer, and that is his trigger. That's hilarious. I think that's the funniest thing in the world. So I had to print this guy out and paint him. I spent way too much money on this unit of boys. I do not care. Okay. I eventually want to get like a shock jump dragsta. Paint it up to look like the Speed Racer, and I'm going to get a whole bunch of others, but that's where the plan is going. Now, speaking of movie references and whatnot, for a birthday gift for a friend, I decided I was going to make him like a picture frame diorama for 40K. And he plays salamanders and also really likes Doom. So what I'm going to do, and what I've started to do, is I've got this one Mark 6 salamander, right? He's got the salamander head. And you notice he's missing an arm. And that's because he's going to be on top of a mountain fighting a whole bunch of Khorne bloodletters. And I've got a Khorne bloodletter with a chainsword through his torso. So this is going to go here. And I'm going to glue him on there. And I'm going to have a whole bunch of other bloodletters climbing the mountain trying to pull him down. And since my buddy Soft Servo is like an accomplished musician and knows a lot about like circuitry and whatnot, he's going to develop a sound card that we can put in the picture frame. And so when he presses a button, it will play both the more modern rendition of the Doom, the famous Doom song, and the original MIDI version. And then I think we've got a sound sample of the person this is going to, and I'm going to try and convince him to make like a ridiculous honking version of the Doom theme, so that it plays all three depending on how often you press the button. But that is the goal. I will get back to that one eventually. And yeah, it looks like I'm at 100 followers, so that means I'm going to need to do something special. And unfortunately, my desire to make him look better has kind of gone away now that I'm looking at him. He basically looks done. So, I think I'm not done with him. I've got more I want to do. I don't like the fact that he's so one note with his armor. So, I'm probably going to go ahead and, like, spray paint on a hazard stripe there. And I'm definitely going to go ahead and do something with these two kneecaps. I'm probably going to put some transfers on here. I'm going to have more to do with this guy. But I really like how he turned out. And he's going to replace the Ballistus Dreadnought that I currently own. And eventually, depending on how things go, he's probably going to become a Ballistus / Brutalis Dreadnought between, you know, the other magnetized stuff I got. Which is why I'm so excited about this model, is that I can do that now. Unfortunately, with how the arms are set up on the Redemptor Dreadnought and the Ballistus Dreadnought, I can't really do that. But that's okay. I think I'm pretty much done with him for today. And unfortunately for me, it's a little too late for me to start working on something else before I really got to get going. So I think now I'm going to go ahead and call it. Let's see, is there anything else I can really do? Unfortunately, no. I think I'm kind of in a weird spot here. Yeah, unfortunately, I ate dinner around 5:45, 6 o'clock, and that's the time I get to spend with my wife, so I would like to do that. You know what I mean? But I've got a whole bunch of projects. I have a never-ending list of projects. These are my orc bikes. Any feedback would be appreciated, as this is my first army, so always looking to improve. Well, here's a question. Do you mind if I post them on the... Oh, those look great. Do you mind if I post them on the actual Twitch channel, so I can kind of talk about them on the Twitch channel? Because I would love to help you. These look fantastic, especially since, like you said, this is your first army. Yeah, no, I've got a lot of nice things to say about these, because these look awesome. Okay, where'd it go? Window capture. Nope, that's it. That's wrong. I want that one, and I want that one. Yeah, I mean, look at those. Those are fantastic. Man, I can't believe you even managed to get the teeth. Those are ridiculously hard. I struggled so much with the faces when I started, and if this is your first army, then I'm jealous, because you really nailed the faces on these guys. Like, the little bit that I might say you could do, and you've got a demon eye. No, that's not a demon eye. That's the crossbar on the headlight. See, I'm not good at those. The fact that you managed to get the crossbar really cleanly painted on there, that's freaking fantastic. I see that you did your work and you used a good heavy wash on them. Like, in terms of getting the basics down, I feel like you've nailed it. Like, these look great. You've got really clean lines for the most part, and the parts that aren't super clean, they look like they've naturally worn away, so it isn't even an issue. The orcs themselves look really good. I'm assuming you're using a wash on these models, because if you're not, then I'm even more stunned, because these look like there's a wash on them. My dry brushing always looks powdery. That's not your fault. There's a reason, because I don't know if you noticed, but with my guy, he has a very powdery looking a wash, or a very powdery looking dry brush. Here, I'll pull them up closer so you can kind of see it. Like, it's powdery, and there's a reason for that, and it's not really your fault. My understanding, and this is because I haven't tested this myself, but my understanding is the reason that your dry brushes look powdery is, are you kind of hitting them on a paper towel or a napkin first before you wash them, paint it over again? And that's why it looks so good. You rebuilt back up to the highlight. So yeah, with the dry brushing, are you putting the paint like on a paper towel and then grinding the dry brush in and then kind of, yeah, a piece of wood? There you go. It's because you're using a porous surface. My understanding is that if you use like a piece of wood, if you use a piece of paper, then what ends up happening, yeah, like Aria said, you dry out the paint, and so it ends up becoming very grainy looking. But if you lightly dampen the dry brush, like not dump it in the in your paint cup, but if you just get a little bit of moisture on it and then you do the dry brushing, that will reduce the powdering a lot. It will make it a lot more smooth. There's a tremendous guy on YouTube named Artist Opus, and he's become like the grand master of dry brushing. So if you watch how he does it, you can see like a master at work. But yeah, no, those look really, really good. Like, just stylistically, they're different than what I'm doing because you chose to paint the metal parts metal instead of black and dry brushing with the metal. But I don't really have a whole lot of advice to give you. I might go a little bit higher on some of your highlights if you want that specific look. Like, I don't think you can see my mouse cursor, but on some of the spots where the light would hit their heads the highest, so like, or hit their skin, so like the top of their shoulders, the knuckles on the hand that's swinging the chain, the brow above the goggles on the biker on the left, you might want to go a little lighter. Yeah, here, one moment. I can actually direct you to Artist Opus. What am I doing? Artist Opus. And he even has a dry brush tutorial. Dry brushing, a complete guide. That's a 30-minute video. Dampening pad uses and unique tutorial. Yeah, let's do a complete guide. Yeah. Let's go ahead and grab that. And let's go ahead and throw it in. Yeah, there you go. But no, like in terms of getting your army tabletop ready and getting them good enough that someone's gonna want to pick it up and look at it, you're there already. There's not much more to tell you. The next step, if you want to get models that really pop, is to start doing edge highlighting and what's called like volumetric lighting. And what edge highlighting will do is it will give you a lighter border on some of the borders of the different parts, and that will make them stand out and pop more. I don't know if I have a really good example of that anywhere. Give me a second. I've got some models around here that I might be able to show that with. Yeah, I guess I can use this. Yeah, so much edge lighting for the Eldar. I'm trying to build a Custodes army right now, or combat patrol. I'm so hateful of edge highlighting. So like this guy isn't a great example, but he's kind of he's the best one I could find on short notice. You can see like right here, that's very, very wet. Right here on this lip, it's a brighter color than the rest of his armor. Or like at the edges of the bug, it's brighter than the metallic of the bug. And what that does is it helps, and like on here, on the edges of this part of his helmet, it's brighter than the rest of it. What that does is creates really nice borders for your eyes to follow, so it really differentiates this band of metal versus the dome of metal, or this dome of metal versus that dome of metal. And again, not a great example, because I just hit this guy with a massive dry brush. Or like even right here, you can see that there's a little bit of a dry brush edge highlight right there, and it really separates the whole of the hose with the metal part of the hose. So edge highlighting helps with that, and you don't really need to edge highlight everything, just the parts that you want to stand out, right? Let me make myself sad real quick. This guy I did not edge highlight. I painted him in non-metallic metal, But you can see that as I get closer to the edges of his helmet wings, as I get closer to the edges of his breastplate, as I get closer to the edges on his shoulder pad, whoops, it's out of focus. That doesn't help. It gets brighter, and that just really helps your eyes clearly distinguish. And kind of the same thing. This is an extreme example because I'm doing a fairly advanced technique poorly, but non-metallic, or I mean volumetric lighting. In spots where the light is going to hit the model the most, that's where you want it to be brightest, right? So you did a really good job bringing back up the green from the wash that you did, but on the highest parts of the shoulder, of the eyes, of the fist, or whatever, you might want to go even brighter, which will create a deeper contrast between like the shadows you created with the wash versus the highest spot on the model's flesh. And actually, I have an example of that. A good example of that. With an orc. Here he is. I don't need this. I bought the old school Boss Snickrot before he went out of print. And I love this model just because I love his sassy little shush. But you can kind of see where I did some volumetric highlighting on him. The top part of his shoulder has a brighter color of green on it than the mid part of his shoulder, which is then further separated by the darker... I didn't actually wash him with this one. I just used a very dark green. The darker green in the shadows, right? And again, at this point, I'm giving you fairly advanced stuff. I wouldn't expect you to try and do this 6 months into the hobby unless you were especially brave. But that would be the next step you'd want to go if you really want your models to pop, is to get really good at edge highlighting and volumetric highlighting. And with this, I just dry brushed it because I was a lazy boy. I tried to do non-metallic metal on the blades. I think it reads okay, but it's not my favorite thing I've ever done. But yeah, like right now, you're in a really good spot. I wish I was as good at painting at 6 months as you are. My 6 month stuff looks kind of crummy, but that's fine. It's all a growing process. Actually, I think I've got some of those models. One moment. And see, I got lucky because I was painting basically all yellow. But like this guy was, I think, about a year into the hobby. Hey, Swedish Muppet guy, how's it going? I don't really have time to start a new painting thingy, so I'm just going over some quick tips for someone who's interested. This guy I painted pure yellow, and then I hit him with Agrax Earthshade, and then I dry brushed him with like a bone color. But it still looks pretty darn good. You just got home? Very cool. I've been home now for about an hour and a half, and that's how long I've been streaming. I've had a really exhausting week, so I figured I'd come on and say hi to everyone. But well, oh, actually, I got something cool to show you. I painted a Dreadnought. I painted me a Ballistus Dreadnought that is not a Ballistus Dreadnought. I found this model from Thunderhead Studios, and they've decided to make a Truescale box knot. And yeah, the week has been a long one. And so what they did was they gave it both the Firstborn Dreadnought loadouts or the Primaris Dreadnought loadouts. So this guy is my new Ballistus Dreadnought. And the best thing about it to me is he went ahead and pre-magnetized all of his bits. So all you need to have is the magnets themselves. Because if you do, you can just glue them in and then pop it right on. Or if I wanted him to be melee, I could just pop it in, and now he's a melee boy. So I'm extremely excited with how well this printed, and I can't wait to do more of it. And so much of the guy is magnetized. It's try using a texture pad for the dry brushing. If you use a paper towel now, that is. He's using a piece of wood right now, apparently. And I don't actually know what a texture... Oh, I know what a texture pad is. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Aren't those the ones that come with a whole bunch of, like, pre-made textures on the actual, like, piece so that you can kind of see what it's going to look like? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. You can, like, glue down bits of sprue and like, put down some earth texture and whatnot, and then prime it all. So that way you can practice dry brushing on it without taking out the moisture. Isn't that a texture pad? Or am I losing my mind? Yeah, it's like a 10x6 board. Yeah. What I ended up doing, because I'm exceptionally lazy, is that I just kept using the same chunk of paper towel until it was completely covered in paint. It still technically has a texture, but it can't really absorb moisture anymore. I have one on my wish list, but it's going to be a few more paydays before I take a trip to the hobby shop. Well, the good news is like Swedish Muppet Guy says, is you can make your own. A lot of the things in the hobby, with the exception of like the paints and the brushes, you can make your own for dirt cheap. Either that or you can 3D print it. In fact, if you're in the United States, I'll 3D print you one and just send it to you. I have an FDM. I took a bunch of old bits, bought a random cheap cutting board, just glued them on there, primed it, and boom. Yeah, that's it. That's all it is. The primer prevents the moisture from escaping, and yeah, it's all good. Man, I'm really glad I did this today. A lot of people here to help. Yeah, I love this guy. Playing with the magnets brings me back to being a child, and that's been one of my favorite things. I recently, for a friend, I painted a Station Forge proxy of a Lehman Russ tank. I think the entire thing ended up costing you about $4. And see, it doesn't get much better than that, right? But yeah, I painted up a proxied Lehman Russ. And for him, he doesn't magnetize most of his stuff because it's such a colossal hassle. But I decided, you know what? I want him to experience the awesomeness that is magnetizing. I want to make this easier to transport. So I magnetized the turret, I magnetized the cannon, and he was like, man, you didn't have to do that. And we played a game, and he brought out that Lehman Russ tank, and then he turned the turret to face my Dreadnought, and then he was like, yeah, man, I understand why you magnetize things. This is fun as hell. And it's like perfect. If you have a Dollar Tree nearby, or if you're in luck, a dollar store, get a cutting board, yeah. Yeah, it's that easy. So I wouldn't worry about getting official Games Workshop or official Army Painter or official anything, because Games Workshop kind of overprices their stuff anyway, and Army Painter is okay quality. They're not super great, but they're not bad. I don't want to dump on Army Painter too much, but if you can find a cheaper alternative, then it's most likely going to be nearly as good. The one thing that I wouldn't skimp on is paint. Citadel or Vallejo are like the two best ones out there. I wouldn't go with Army Painter if I could help it. Yeah, paints and primers. And even then, primers, I have an airbrush, so I use Vallejo Surface Primer. And it saves me a ton of money in the long run because, like, this is a rattle can's worth. But it's the first bottle I had of this lasted me like 6 months, and I paint way too often. But yeah, so definitely the paints you need to get because the pigments, but otherwise it's all good. That being said, though, it's 10 to 6. I'm just comfortable with their products because you know they're good. Pay for the reliability, right? Pay for that peace of mind if that's what you need to do. I'm never gonna yuck someone else's yum. If there are things they like and it works for them, then go for it. Speaking of, Blood Bowl miniatures. I really wanted to continue learning how to paint flesh, so I bought some Blood Bowl miniatures of Nurgle's Rotters, and because I am a juvenile child, I put a secret on them. So these were the first models I actually used flocking on, and so I was pretty happy with how it turned out. The flesh turned out to be gross and horrifying, and I love it. But my favorite thing about it is I made them all poop their pants. I am not allowed. I had varnishes though. I go cheap and buy off-brand super high gloss, and then throw in some super matte on top of that. That's a smart thing to do, I think. But yeah, I made it so all of my Nurgle's Rotters team are just, relieving themselves on the field. Big poop, good sky towel. I bought Army Painter brushes and wasn't too impressed, so I need to find a cheaper brand of good brushes. They definitely did soil themselves, and it's great, and I love it. Army Painter brushes are inconsistent at best. From what I heard, the Citadel STC brushes are pretty good. They're like $5 a brush, and even though they're synthetic, they're not bad. Yeah, I can't. I've had some decent Army Painter brushes, but I tried to get their Kolinsky Sable ones, and their Kolinsky Sable brush is absolute dog shit. The best brushes you can buy for your money right now are Winsor & Newton Series 7, which you can't really read. But Amazon has a great set apparently with some ergo grips. Yeah, I just get those. Until you really need it, you don't. I wouldn't worry about buying super nice brushes. Rosemary and Company are great, Series 33. But yeah, Winsor & Newton are apparently the best in the business, or have been for a while. I don't know if they've been supplanted, but I got my first Winsor & Newton brush for Christmas, and I also got the Army Painter Kolinsky Sable brush, and they both cost the same amount. And the Army Painter Kolinsky Sable brush was so bad that when I let Soft Servo use it, he did like 2 brush strokes and just went, oh dear, oh no. And then he gave it back to me and went back to using his brushes. I gotta look up Rosemary and Company because I remember reading about them, but they're supposedly really good. You have some Winsor & Newton brushes, the synthetic ones. I don't know if the Winsor & Newton synthetics are good, but they probably are because Winsor & Newton in general is good. But the big thing to remember, I'm waggling a Winsor & Newton Kolinsky brush. The big thing to remember is that by and large, you're going to overpay for Citadel. Army Painter is going to get you exactly what you pay for and probably disappoint you. And with brushes, if you go to a hobby store or an arts and crafts store, you can probably find better synthetic brushes anyway. Just make sure you're getting like number 1s. They don't ship to us right now because of the weird ban on Sable. Yeah, I've had to buy everything through Amazon at best. And I was kind of surprised that I was able to get the Winsor & Newtons I did. Your super detail is a quadruple 0 Winsor & Newton brush. Yeah, the number is the size. A number 1 size is going to be smaller than a number 2, which is going to be smaller than a number 3. And actually, I'm holding a brush in my hand right now that can show you that example. So yeah, here is a Winsor & Newton Series 7 number 1 brush, right? Here is a number 4. So you want to try and stick around the number 1, 0, at most number 2 range. And there's some great videos on brush treatment, like how to properly take care of your brushes so they don't split and become grody like the one I just had. I do suggest you get some Masters brush cleaner and preserver, which is basically a special conditioner slash soap that will do a really good job of cleaning out your brushes. You just kind of run it in there and roll it around and try and get it into your brush, and you can already see that it's like oozing a color. That's because it's getting the paint off. And yeah, don't put paint in the ferrule. It's generally a bad thing in general. This is my beater brush, so it's kind of awful to look at, but I still try and treat it decently better. Decently better than what it could be. There's words there that I've forgotten. You use some organic soap, you buy it cheap for like $1.50 for a liter. Hopefully it's a brush soap, because if it is, then you're doing really good for yourself. But yeah, I think that's what I've got. I don't know if there's anything else. Oh, Captain Star-Lord, have you seen Gilliman? Have you seen the Primark? It's not specifically for brushes. Well, I hope it works really well for you. It sounds like it does. But yeah, Captain Star-Lord, have you seen the Primark for the Ultramarines, the leader of the Blue Boys, Robot Girly Man, Rabute Gilliman, whatever you want to call him? Because I have one. I learned to do non-metallic metal on him, which was the dumbest thing I've ever done. It's a very mild soap. I thought Papa Smurf was Marnius Calgar, but I guess they both are. My brushes are 2 for $1 at a local shop. That's awesome that it works out for you, because that's a lot of money you're saving. But yeah, I painted Rabute Gilliman as part of a painting contest, and also to teach myself non-metallic metal. And that man has so much gold trim that I just basically decided I was going to hit my hand with a hammer for 2 days. But he looks pretty darn good. One moment. if you decide to stick with Ultramarines, you need to get yourself a robot girly man because he's a neat model and everyone loves him as a centerpiece. They may not be happy he's back in the lore, but he's a great looking character and he's a really fun model to paint. I will not try and take that away from him. Even as I was trying frantically to learn how to do non-metallic metal, I had a blast painting this guy because he is just such a cool model. And again, do I have a Space Marine near me? One moment. Let me find an intercessor. Come on. Yeah, he's a cool model, and he's really friggin' big. Look at how tall this man is. He's supposed to be the Primarch of the Ultramarines. They're all of their gene seed is based off of him, so they all kind of try and be like him. Here's my what army? Oh yeah, right now. I'll let him answer that. I don't need to answer that for him. But another cool thing that I did because I wanted to learn how to magnetize. I magnetized his helmet and his head, and I put a little magnet on the battlefield to hold on to it because I was tired of losing it. So now I can have Robot Gilliman's head looking at you. He's looking at you. But yep, this one helped me get enough money to get that Custodes Combat Patrol. So I'm gonna put that back. Hello. That'll be up soon. Okay, love you. My wife is gonna cook me dinner and I'm so happy. Treat me like a baby. Okay, so one last thing. I just saw this on the shelf and I feel like you guys need to see it. So I mentioned one-page rules earlier. One-page rules is a very streamlined, simplified, beat-down version of Warhammer. Unfortunately, no. I don't think we can mail it to you without it becoming awful. She's just putting some like chicken patties and fries in the oven, but it's gonna be yummies. But anyway, the one-page rules has their own approximations of the Warhammer armies and some other ones. So like instead of Space Marines, they have Battle Brothers, and instead of Chaos Demons, they have Warp Demons. So like they don't have Nurgle Plague Demons, Nurgle Demons, they have Plague Demons. And instead of you're gonna make some warm sandwiches, that sounds like a good idea. I actually will toast bread and then put peanut butter and jelly in between them, and that makes like a nice warm toasty peanut butter and jelly. But anyway, they didn't go the same route as Nurgle does, because they didn't want to just rip wholesale from Games Workshop. So instead of going with like rot and decay and organic, like human zombie waste, you've never had a peanut butter and jelly? I didn't really eat them much until I became an adult, and then I realized how good the combo was. But they're not for everyone. Texturally, they're kind of weird. They went with a the Plague Demons for one-page rules went with a like fungal look, so they have a lot of like mushrooms blooming on them. And one of their models I entered for a painting competition with them. It's supposed to be the Glotkin from, you're not in the US though, it's not a big thing here. That would definitely make sense. They seem like a very American food. And America has a habit of making horrifying abominations when it comes to their food. But yeah, let me find the Glotkin, because I love showing off this model because it just looks so atypical and weird. So first of all, the Glotkin, which is a great Age of Sigmar model that you need to see. So we eat liver pate instead. I've heard that's good. Glotkin! So there's the Glotkin. You know, big old gross monstery looking thing. He looks like a big old zombie ogre. He's got Zimbos and Plague Demons on his back. Great looking model. I love this model. I want this model. But instead, what I printed was, I think it was called their Plague Avatar, and it looks like a giant mushroom ogre come to life. And I have a friend who's he's like a biologist, and he's really into flora and fauna, and he sent me all these reference pictures of like mushrooms and how bright and vibrant they are. So I made him ultra bright and ultra vibrant. Liver pate on toast with a pickle on top. That combination actually sounds really good. So yeah, I painted this guy. And he's got like a snot cannon because I decided to be disgusting. But I really enjoyed painting this model because he's just so big and gross and weird looking. Yeah, this is the plague demons from One Page Rules. So yeah, he's supposed to be their approximation of a Glotkin. And I wanted to do an entire Nurgle army, but then I ran out of resin, and then I kind of got distracted by a million other things. So he's the only one I have of the army. But yeah, I can't stick to anything for too long. I personally use some pickle with a bit of chili and garlic thrown in there. See, again, that sounds delicious. Adding extra spices is fun. Okay. Okie dokie. I'm hungry. Oh man. So I think what's gonna happen now, I'm done doing show and tell. I think I'm gonna go ahead. Yeah, they balance each other out really well. I would figure that, yeah, the vinegar against the chili and the garlic, that sounds really good. I'm getting really hungry, guys. I don't want to eat my paint water. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna head upstairs. I actually specifically don't put any liver pate is quite sweet. I would never have guessed that. I've never had liver pate. But now I'm curious, especially with the other things you mentioned. That sounds great. But I purposely don't keep anything within arm's reach that is food or sustenance because I don't want to accidentally grab my paint cup. So I think I'm going to head upstairs and help prepare dinner with my wife. And then I'm just going to relax for the rest of the evening. And tomorrow I'm going to go see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies because I'm very excited to see that. Probably with Soft Servo and his wife too. But yeah, I'm going to try and start streaming more regularly when I get home from work. So about 4:15 until about 6. Am I on Discord? Oh, is he on Discord? Yeah, okay. So I do have a Discord somewhere, and I don't really do much on it. It was just kind of someone telling me, hey, you should make a Discord so that people can show off their stuff. So I'll go ahead, and if you guys are interested, I'll throw this in here. There's my Discord. You guys can chill in there and chat if you want or not. I'm not too worried either way. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get dinner. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So I will see you guys later. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. I hope to see you all again around on Monday. If not, that's cool too. Have a good rest of your evenings. Have a great weekend, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.